Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is a musician up and coming from Newcastle. His name is Aidan Pitcher. Welcome to the show, Aidan. How you doing?
Hello, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, man. I think you might actually be my first guest from Newcastle, so that's cool. Big love for the Newcastle people. Shout out to Gaston. I don't know if he watches this, but that's an acting friend I met from Newcastle. Yeah, let's talk about Newcastle for a second. Like, why is everyone so friendly in Newcastle? What gives?
I mean, to be fair, it's probably just because we all have one thing in common in Newcastle, and that's just football. Everyone loves football. Because obviously we don't really have much there other than the football club. So everyone's all connected on one thing.
Would you say like everyone is kind of really into their football in Newcastle then? There's like no one that's not really a fan. Like
from my experience, it's very rare to find someone who doesn't go to the football.
I get you. Well, how do you feel about what's going on recently with the club being acquired by, I can't remember who the investors are, but they're like, I believe it might actually make Newcastle the richest club in the world, or certainly the top five. Yeah. How do you feel about
that? Well, there's people obviously who aren't okay with it because it's Saudi Arabia and the human rights and all that. But the way I think of it, because most people now, other than Newcastle fans, are still going, "Oh, it's oil money and all that." But if you look at the other clubs like Man City, same thing. They've got oil money as well. So it's like, how can you accept one club having it just because they're already big, but you can't accept us having it? And I think it's just like we're getting back to where we used to be, and I think people are scared of that because we used to be one of the best teams.
It's true
in England. So
it's always felt quite weird that Newcastle has always had a huge football stadium, but then you've spent the better part of, let's say, 10, 15 years or something like that in Championship. I don't think it's ever gone lower than that. And it's weird, because, Newcastle used to be in the Premiership, used to be a big team. Obviously, Alan Shearer was one of the bigger players back in the day. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be. And it's an interesting thing as well, I think, from an investment standpoint. I mean, it's kind of obvious why all the investments are in the big clubs now in major cities in England, because it's like, for business it's good, strategically it's good, but it's kind of changed things in a way that is quite divisive and causes, you've got two camps, because it's like, it's great for the game of football in the sense that you've got more money, more access to, I suppose, exciting players, which makes the league more fun, etc. But then, as you say, like it's coming from a source that's not, it's not great, really, is it? Just on a side note related to this, so in the news recently, so I'm a big wrestling fan, big professional wrestling fan.
So am I. I actually used to wrestle.
Did you really?
For a company in Bedlington.
Okay, well, we'll circle back to that. So I don't know if you've seen the news, but WWE, there will report, it's been denied, but it's going back and forth right now. That
it's reported, the reports that I've seen, it's actually the same people who bought Newcastle United.
That's weird.
Which is a weird concept to get my head around. Just ever think of Newcastle United's owned by the same people who owns WWE. It's not a concept.
It's kind of like the guys that own AEW. They own Fulham Football Club and then the Jacksonville Jaguars in the States. It's so weird hearing Tony Khan, because Tony Khan's obviously he's Indian heritage, I think, Pakistani, something like that. But he's he's born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, in the States. So here's this like American guy that's like chatting about Fulham Football Club. He's like, Fulham, they had a really good season and everything. And it's just weird hearing it, because he does go there. He's invested in it, but it's just weird. Like, because because they're another team. Yeah, they got a lot of money, and Fulham's a good club. They always have been, but it's like it's interesting, like how many clubs are being acquired in these locations and what that's going to look. I suppose in a way it will make the Premier League more competitive, which is good. But then my worry is the baseline, how it affects the fans. Do you know what I mean? Because that's always how it, because like football, the history of football is it started with, you know, miners and mining companies that like basically put together like a football teams for fun, just that for fun. They had like their own little league, like, you know, they just did it for fun. And then those mining
even
teams,
when they started getting paid, they weren't getting paid a lot. They were getting paid like a fiver.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, back in the day, it was just like a pastime. It wasn't really like everyone in, even I think like the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, they still had like full-time jobs and they were just doing the football on the side.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in like, I think the 80s, 90s is where it all changed. And that's where like all the money came in and stuff. But that's not to say that like players aren't still passionate, because clearly they are. But there are a lot of people that you can see are just solely driven by money. And it does affect 100%. The game. Right. It affects the game negatively in many ways. And it's like, I'm not the world's biggest football fan. I've always looked at it kind of like, I watch international. I quietly follow my team, but they suck. But I love them. Queen's Park Rangers, that's my team. Yeah, it's painful being a QPR fan. But and that's the interesting thing about us as well. If you look at us, we're a funny one because we got acquired from debt in, I want to say the early 2010s, something like that. And like, we were really in debt. There's like, I don't know if this is true, but there was an old story that apparently we were so badly in debt at one point in League Two that the fans were paying the players' wages. I don't know if I believe that, but it sounds like it could be true, because like back in the day, it was like, oh, but the best thing we could hope for is to beat like Wycombe Wanderers away on a Sunday or something. I mean, that was the biggest hope we could ever hope for. And then fast forward,
they used to have some quite history.
Yeah, no. I think we won. We never won any major trophies, but we would, at one point in the 90s when the Premier League first began, we were a big contending, like at least top 10 team, I would say.
Yeah.
And we had some good players, you know, like Les Ferdinand back in the day. Even in the most recent run where we actually got the money, but it was embarrassing. Like, we bought a bunch of players and they kind of gelled but didn't, and it's like the perfect example, like a showcase example of what not to do when you get a bunch of money in football. I think now we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is we're building up the academy, we're building up players. But the problem is those players, it's a bit of a Southampton deal where they'll get built up, they get really good, and then they just leave. Remember
I remember that happening with Southampton. Like, Liverpool were the main ones in that as well, who came in and bought their players, who started getting that, like Sadio Mane.
It's weird. It's like a feeder team. Like it was like that for us for a while. Back in the day, we used to loan some of the or Tottenham had a close relationship with QPR, and they would loan some of their like reserve players to us to use, who just weren't getting any football, like weren't getting to play. And it's like, well, why not? If they're there, why not give them some football? Like, I mean, but yeah, that was painful as a QPR fan to see that. So I was just like, oh, is it ever going to get to a point where we actually, I don't know, build a good team? And I think it's beginning to happen now. But as I say, I keep an acute interest, and I've just seen them over the last 5 or 10 years or whatever it's been, and it's just perpetually stuck at like 9th place. Yeah. It's almost more interesting when your team's doing badly and fighting for relegation, because it's like more exciting. You know what I mean? Are we going to make it? We can get relegated.
I'm a Newcastle fan, so I know the feeling of like hoping you're not going to get relegated every season.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling only just went away not too long ago. Like, because obviously with our previous owner, Mike Hatchley, we thought we were going to go down every season, and we wouldn't have been disappointed because we just saw it coming. Because he didn't do anything with the club. He didn't buy players. He didn't And when he did, they were like 30-year-olds who wouldn't have any chance being a long-term player, who weren't even that good. And he just used us as a marketing thing, like putting Sports Direct logos everywhere. Like he, like I think he went to a point, and I think it actually happened where he managed to get us to be called Sports Direct Arena, and it's just like no fan called it that. We were just at St James's Park.
Yeah, it'll always be St James's Park. Some things you can't change.
Yeah, I think like with stuff like that, like because obviously he wasn't a football person, he was just a businessman. I think that he didn't actually really understand what the club really meant to us.
Right.
Because he was just destroying it. And he knew he was destroying it. Because we were going back and forth into the Championship.
It's quite similar to what's going on with Man U. All the Man U fans that I hear talk about the Glazers and their ownership of the club, it's the same thing. They feel like it's killing the club and like it's caused so many problems. And, you know, obviously there was a point where they were dominant to the point where it was almost sickening, you know. Yeah. And now it's like it's so far the opposite way. I mean, they're slowly building up again, but point is it
took a while for them to do it. Like they've been away from completely dominating for years now.
Last major trophy was the Jose Mourinho deal, which was interesting because he won them a title and they still fired him. He won them the Europa League, I believe. And they still fired him, and that's another thing as well. Like Premiership management is just a joke. Like you'd be lucky to stay in a job for like 6 months. It's just weird. I'll never understand that.
It's either you get kicked out or you just end up destroying the club by staying there too long.
Was that old saying? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I feel like that's what's happened with Ronaldo.
Yeah, he played too long and he was the hero, but he played too long. He saw himself become the villain of the game.
Oh, so weird. What do you think of that move to Al Nassr?
I
think that's how you pronounce it.
I mean, I think I don't even think he should be at a club by now because he's got ability, but his attitude is not the attitude that you meant to have in the modern day game. You're supposed to be passionate and.
Oh, you can't say he's not passionate. Come on.
Well, he's passionate, yeah.
Clearly, that's the problem. He's too passionate sometimes.
Disrespecting his club in that interview was like.
I agree with that.
I don't think I've ever seen a player do it. There might have been people beforehand, but
that's true.
I don't think I've seen a player disrespect their club like that while they're still at the club.
It's interesting as well because when you compare Messi and Ronaldo, like it's known that Messi fell out with the board at Barcelona, but I don't recall him ever saying anything in the media about it. I don't recall him ever dissing the club. Like he was very thankful and gracious upon exiting and stuff, and they obviously said lovely things about him on the way out as well.
Yeah.
I agree. Like I do think you do have to give Ronaldo some leeway though, because obviously he lost a child this past year, and that's going to affect anyone. But to be fair, in the years prior to that, he still had that attitude. So I would tend to agree with you that there's nothing wrong with being passionate about what you do, but I don't think you should be passionate at the expense of others. It's go on.
Well, the thing with him at Al Nassr, it's rumored that he's got a contract for it next season. We get top 4.
Yeah.
He comes to us on loan, which is obviously Eddie's choice if he takes him, and I don't think Eddie will.
You'd be mad not to.
The thing with Eddie Howe is he looks for players who have a certain attitude so
Mm-hmm.
he can grow them as a whole.
Here's the thing, though. I agree. However, not bringing Ronaldo to Newcastle would be bad business. They just showed in the media like how much the club's following grew after Ronaldo joined. So it was like 700,000 before he joins. They're up to 11 million followers.
Yeah.
And that's like, you can't talk football and management without talking business. Now that's just unfortunately just a part of it.
It is unfortunate that that's the case now, but it just is. So you just got to live with it. Like, you can't do anything about it now. It's gone too far with how much business is involved.
I heard something as well. I don't know if this is true, but apparently Ronaldo said that he isn't interested. He's done with European football. I don't believe that for a second. I'm sorry. Like, if there's a chance to play with...
came about with us was because apparently he wanted to go back into the Champions League so he can get a higher record.
Yeah. Why wouldn't
Which
you?
I completely see being the truth.
Yeah. Even if he joined you on, what is it? Join you on loan, isn't it? Yeah. So you join on loan. Is that... okay, I don't know this about football. If you play with a team on loan and you win, does that count as you winning with them?
Yeah.
So okay, yeah. So it would count. Okay, that's interesting. I'll be honest. I would love to just see him in a Newcastle shirt, just for the spectacle of seeing it. Like, it'd just be weird. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know. Like, are Man U and Newcastle direct rivals? I suppose.
We're Premier League rivals.
Yeah, but not like as fiercely as like Man U Liverpool.
Our biggest rival, I think you might know about it, is Newcastle and Sunderland. That's our biggest rival, but we haven't played them in ages.
Normally, it's geographical, isn't it? So it's like whoever's the closest team to you is typically your rival.
But there was the reason why ours is so fierce, like pretty much hatred, is because obviously we're rivals because of how close we are, but we're also rivals because of the Civil War.
Right. Okay.
Because it was the Geordies on one side and it was the Mackens on the other side.
Okay.
So we all had a clash. So I think that's the reason why it stems to that point, because with the Civil War, it's a religious thing.
Okay.
Like the reasoning behind it.
I've never heard about this before. This is interesting.
And it was... So I think it's just complete hatred between us, because obviously there was a civil war between us. We didn't really get along after that. And then we ended up being all right with each other at some point, apart from in football. Yeah. The hatred stayed in football.
It's interesting as well, isn't it, with football? Because it's like you still have those fierce rivalries, but you don't really have, as far as I'm aware, the firms anymore, the fights, people meeting up to fight. I mean, maybe some of that still exists, but as far as I'm aware,
there's fights still, but it's not like because of a rivalry anymore. It's like just hooligans, like football hooligans being like... There was at the Chelsea game, I believe, versus us, and we beat them. There was a couple of Chelsea fans who weren't too happy about it, which I understand, because obviously losing's not a happy feeling. But there was a Chelsea fan stomping a Geordie's head, and there was a Geordie who got whacked in the head with a bottle by a Chelsea fan. And it's just like, it's football. Like, we're like one of the most passionate clubs and fan base probably in the world, and we don't go out punching people because they lost.
I don't get that, and that kind of mentality exists in a lot of different, not just in a physical mentality, but also like I see it in wrestling. People arguing online, saying like, "Oh, your opinion is wrong." I see it in music, I see it in fandoms. It's like people get so aggressive about this, and I get like what you like is an extension of you. It's personal. I understand that, but like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if your team loses, your team loses. Like when England lost to France, I wasn't annoyed at the French. I was like, they just played better than us.
Yeah.
That's it. It sucks.
I was
but it's
annoyed
true.
at the ref because the ref was diabolical. But the fans and the team, I was just like, well, they just took advantage of it. Like, that was smart. We didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, back onto what you said about how it's in music, I know what you mean, because like, there are people who, like, if someone says to an artist, I don't like your music,
right,
and then they just go off and they're like, you should like my music, and like, and it's just like, because I've had people come up to me before and say, I don't like your music. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or people coming up saying, I don't like rock music. And I'm just like, that's fine. Then we're not for you.
Yeah, I wonder that sometimes. Like, I get sometimes comments in my live streams where they're like, oh, I don't like this thing that you do, or yeah, I don't like this. And I'm like, okay, why are you telling me this? Just go, leave. Go find something you do like. Like, I don't have any hatred. Like, I don't mind when people don't like me or don't like things about me, or like, I don't care, first and foremost. And secondly, you shouldn't care. Because there will be people that love you, there'll be people that hate you. It doesn't matter what you do in life. But
because the thing in music is, if someone comes up to you and says that they don't like a certain thing,
right,
and then you change it, and then it turns out there was a majority of people who did like it, and they're just going to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, doesn't it? If you get constructive criticism and it makes sense, sure.
I get constructive criticism, and I can completely take that. If someone's just saying, I don't like your music, it doesn't bother me.
Nah, it shouldn't.
It just makes me go, all right, we're not the band for you.
Yeah.
Find a band that you are into.
Exactly.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter, because there's a lot of musicians who take that sort of stuff to heart, especially in the modern music industry. There's a lot of artists who take it to heart when people say that, but I'm just like, if you don't like my music, you don't like my music. I can't change it. So why should I bother myself getting upset about it?
It is tricky. I mean, I think sometimes, like, when there are particular, like, sometimes there's people that you want desperately to like your stuff and they don't, and that can be hard. But it's just, I think it's an important life lesson for anyone, especially anyone that's listening right now. Like, try to always remember that, like, at the end of the day, it's okay not to be liked. It's okay when people don't like certain things that you've done, or whatever the case may be. Like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
We're not the most popular band in the world,
right?
Like, we've got loads of people who don't like us.
Yeah,
but that's just how it is. Especially in music, you're gonna have people who like you, and you're gonna have people who don't.
Yeah.
Which is a lesson that I feel like a lot of artists need to learn, is that there's always going to be someone who doesn't like your music.
Exactly, yeah. There's nothing you can do about that either. You just have to kind of accept it and move on and go from there, really.
Yeah. Like, I understand, like, being upset about it and, like, maybe just crying for a little bit. But then when you start letting it, like, dictate everything.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Like, you can't. I think the point that you raised there about not letting people drive the ship like that. Your fans should never be driving the ship. Like, you should take on board what they say. Definitely pay attention to it, but the artist ultimately has to do what's right for them. That's why, like. And I had to understand this too. Like, there's so many artists that I listen to that. I'll give you a really good example, right? So I'm a big fan of Mac DeMarco, right? And I kind of felt like when he went independent and he released his last album in 2019, I felt like I was a bit disappointed. There were some few good tunes on there, but it just felt like such a departure from, like, I feel like he needs a little bit of that direction maybe, or input from like not necessarily a record label, but like from that industry. I don't know. Like sometimes when an artist goes fully independent, it's not always the best thing for them if they've had assistance before. I don't know. But I don't know, like the way I looked at
the
it.
independent part of like music, like it's a lot harder than it looks.
For sure. Absolutely. But what I wanted to drive at just real quick is like this idea. No. Like, hey, it's discussion, man. We're going lots of different places. That's how it's going to be, you know? All I wanted to say is that I think that it's important. Oh, we lost you there. He's back. There you go. It's important to do what's right for you. Yeah, and to not always pay too much attention to what the critics will say. Like, you know, you're not, every album that you release is going to be different. You're always going to get people that say, oh, I preferred what you did like 5 albums back, 10 albums back. You know, there's people that will say that you sold out. There's people that will say this, that, and the other. Like, you got to do what makes sense for you at the end of the day. And everyone's critic.
Yeah, everyone is. The thing with music is that if you're going to do it to the best of your ability, it has to be a thing that you can get lost in. Like, especially like live, when you're performing it live, if you're not completely in the music and giving the best show you can to the fans because you're doing something that doesn't feel completely right, just to try and please someone else, it's never going to work out doing that. You've got to take on criticism and do what you can with it, and like always be open to it. Don't completely set it out. Like don't be cocky or anything. Don't go, I'm the best in the world. Like don't be cocky about it. Take the criticism, take it on board, but at the end of the day, do what you feel is right for you, to be able to do it to the best of your ability. Because if you're not doing it to the best of your ability, it's not going to give a good show.
I agree. I think also as well, being a musician is a lot like being in a relationship. Both the relationship that you have with your bandmates, or just in general, the connection you have to music. Like if your heart is not in it, it's just not going to work out. Same with a relationship. Yeah, you got to love it. You got to absolutely love it.
Because if you're wanting to do music for a job, like what I do, you have to love it. Because if you don't, then the more fans you get, the bigger you get, the more shows you will therefore have to do. You'll not enjoy it, and you'll just end up feeling like you're stuck.
Talk us through where you're at right now, like, because I know you're on the younger side. I think you're like 18, 19 right now, something like that, right? So presumably you've been playing music for a little bit, and you know you're getting into it, and I know you've got a band and everything going. But like, talk to us a little bit about where you're at with music and what your goals are.
Well, I'll just start off to like where I was in the beginning.
Okay.
Where I was in the beginning, I actually was a solo artist doing like more on the pop stuff, because obviously that's just what was big at the time, and I was just like, if I want to get far, I have to do pop. And then I started going, well, I don't really like pop, and I don't like singing pop, and I'm just like, but I love rock and I love singing rock. So maybe I can just get people who love rock to like me. Because even though there's fewer people, it's still a fan base that you can have a connection with. Like whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people, or 100 people, or 1,000. it's still a fan base that you can connect with. And then I met the lead guitarist for the band, who's really young. He's 15. And it was at the same festival I was playing with a volunteer type band.
Okay.
Like me just doing songs, but like having different people, like every shows that I play. So I was doing a gig at Park in the Park. I don't know if you know that, but it's in Morpeth. So I was doing that, and then I went off to cool down after it and to like settle down because I was staying there for the rest of the festival. And then I just saw him playing, and I was just like, he's unbelievable. And I was just like, because with rock, everyone has a lot of a voice because of backing vocals and all that. And I was just like, he can sing, and he can play the guitar like a god.
Oh wow! There you go.
That might be a bit too far, but I thought it was.
he's gonna see this and be like, "Damn, all right, I'll take it.
But like by that I mean like he plays with like a sort of uniqueness that you only get when you put your entire soul into playing. Like when he's playing, because I know he's playing, you know it's him.
Yeah.
Which is like when someone's singing, it's easier to tell because you can hear the voice.
Yeah.
But if there's a guitarist that you can tell who it is by their playing because of how unique they are and how much of their own soul they put into it, that's a great player.
That's a really good point, actually. I saw some video the other day. It's like a collabs type thing where it was something crazy. It was like, oh, imagine you're playing like a Coldplay song and then Slash features to do a solo over it. It's like a bizarre collab. But the guy that was imitating Slash nailed it as far as the cadence and the style of play and whatever. And I was sitting there thinking like, yeah, like Slash does have a very unique style of play that you can't really, I can't think of anyone that really sounds like him. Like it's an unmistakable thing. Like you said, like there are just certain, you know, vocalists, guitarists, even drummers, bassists, even like all those different instruments. There will be like specific, I don't know, tones or playing styles or just intricacies, little things here and there that make them unique and make them stand out, make them, you know, just memorable, I guess.
I mean, the main guitarists that I think of on like, you know who they are when they play. It's Brian May from Queen. As soon as he plays, you can like your eyes or just go to another room but still be able to hear it. You'll know who he is.
Yeah.
Like, because he's just got such a uniqueness to his playing that it makes it so watchable. Like you want to watch it. You want to go and admire it. You want to go, he's playing in a way I've never seen before in anyone else. Because Brian May, you can tell who he is when he's playing. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, you can tell that's him. Slash, as you mentioned, from Guns N' Roses, you can tell. But then there's some guitarists who are great guitarists in their own right, absolutely amazing, but don't have a uniqueness and just sound like another really good guitarist.
That's interesting. That I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like I've seen about 1,000 million people do like versions of Jimi Hendrix songs, and you know, sometimes they're very faithful to the original, sometimes they're a bit out there, but generally speaking, I've not really been that impressed. Like, I think the last time I was really impressed was what's the name of that guy? Stevie Ray Vaughan, I think his name is. Who would kind of expand upon it. He was very Jimmy-esque, but he had his own style. And then there was a guy recently, I can't remember his name, but like it completely blew me away because he took Hendrix stuff, but he put his own style on it, and it blew my mind. It was like a reinvention, as it were. I think that's always key. Is like it's okay.
Covers as well. If you're covering something, make it your own. Like, don't just make it sound like the original. Make it your own and make it sound like you. So people can go, oh, that's a great different version of this song. Instead of just, this is someone who's good at this song.
It's always funny as well, like when the cover is better than the original. So
there are quite a few of those. Quite a few of those. I mean, this isn't my opinion, but it's pretty much the world's opinion. Valerie by Amy Winehouse, which was originally by the Zootons. I prefer the Zootons.
Same. I'm in Zooton camp, man. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I heard it in a bar the other day, and I was like, "Damn, yeah!" Like the originals, it kicks us. It's like, like it's. Do you know what it is? It's different. I don't think that one is better than the other. I think they're like different songs. Because the Amy Winehouse version is like a kind of, I don't even know what to call it. It's just an upbeat pop, funky kind of vibe. And then the Zootons version is a very gritty, standard rock tune that's got quite a lot of, like, the singer really busts his vocal cords on that and just like goes for it. And anyone that's listened to the Zootons first and second album, especially the first one, Zooton Fever, there's just so much going on musically. Like they're an amazing band, seriously underrated. And it's weird because, like, I guess they'll always only ever be known as far as like for having written that song and then for it to have been covered. And hey, look, the royalties for life, you know what I mean? But they are an unmistakably brilliant band, and it's a shame that they get more recognition.
That song just got left to them, and Amy Winehouse didn't cover it. I think it would have got just as big. I
disagree. I really do. I feel like it was a time that if you go back over the years, like certain years, like you'll find that there are tunes that are big for that year, but they become like obscure, or like I'll give you a really good example. Like in the early 2000s, there was bands like Hardfire. There was a particular year when this band Hardfire, I kid you not, they dominated for like a year or something, like a particular summer. Like they just had an album out. It was everywhere. You heard it all the time. But you don't really hear it on the radio anymore. There are some songs that stay and that get played and played and played and played, and then they get eventually transitioned into like oldies or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, like there's always songs which stay there throughout time and like completely timeless. But that's like very few. Like Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi.
Oh, God, I can't stand it.
Always be a song that if you hear it, you're gonna burst out with the chorus.
Maybe I'd hate it, mate. I think it's so overplayed. I can't stand it. I get it. It's a well-written song. Yeah.
I think the fact that it's overplayed shows how timeless it is, because it's just
or just like they're paying off the radio stations. I mean, yeah, but it's I go to. There are certain songs that happens. I was talking on the live stream about this the other day about, you know, like you got like Wonderwall, Smells Like Teen Spirit, like all these songs that it's almost taboo to even play them anymore. Like, and if you do get requested them, like when I do music lives and someone requests Wonderwall, I would just assume they're trolling. And sometimes people are serious; they really want to hear it, but I just assume it's a troll.
I think it's because it's become so overplayed to a point where a lot of trolls were using that as a troll. So when someone serious with it comes along, it's just a troll. But that song is an example of a timeless song which is like kind of played too much, but like if you hear it live, you're gonna sing to it.
Oh,
but
sure, of course.
But if you just hear it, like if you like on Spotify,
and
it comes up, you're just gonna skip it. But I would
Probably.
anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But it's just like sometimes with songs that are played to it, I think playing a song too much can in some cases ruin the song
Yes.
because it just gets to a point where you've heard it too much that it's annoying to listen to.
But that's kind of the whole point, though, isn't it? Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that song. Like, the song "Wonderwall" by Oasis is
It's a great song.
it's a great song, brilliant written track. It's just overplayed, and that's what makes it unbearable. Nothing else. Yeah, if it just wasn't played, it would be like a tune that you'd want to hear. You know what I mean?
I think even though you don't like "Living on a Prayer," like
I hate it because it's overplayed. If it wasn't overplayed all the time, like I hear it, I like instrumental. Like you can't deny it's a good song. It's a well crafted, structured song. It's just.
I think what made it so big was the fact that it was so unique at the time. Like with the at the start of it where they used the voice box or whatever on the guitar, and how it was quite very, very different actually from most of Bon Jovi's songs, like with the fact that it's quite slow, but at the same time still got the heaviness and the
I know what you mean. Like by all intents and purposes, I should like it, but like I can hear it in my head right now, and I can't stand it.
I think also the thing that Bon Jovi, like John Bon Jovi's got an amazing voice.
For sure.
It is 100% one of the best voices in that genre in the world. But the thing is, his voice, if you keep hearing it for a certain amount of time, like over and over and over again, you start hearing the faults in it.
Maybe. I mean, I look at it more like whenever I hear tracks from an artist like that are overplayed, I always think the same thing, which is I prefer their other songs. Like take Nirvana's Nevermind album, right? Everyone goes on and on about Smells Like Teen Spirit. Oh, what a great song, generation defining. And they're right, sure. But that album...
It is a good song.
It is, but it's not the best song on the album. I mean, you've got Breeze, Drain You, Lithium, Polly, Something in the Way, Territorial Pissings. Like, it's a fucking amazing album. And all those tracks on there are 10,000 times better.
Smells Like Teen Spirit is a great song, very well written, but I do agree with you. It's not the best song on the album.
It's one of those things. If you go to a gig, or you're in a guitar center or something, and someone starts playing that, everyone groans or just looks and gives them like the what?
They give them the why are you playing Stairway to Heaven in a guitar store?
Yeah, it's no Stairway, denied. Like, come on, like no. But it's true. Like, people will get pissed off at you, and it shouldn't be like that, but it's because it's the go-to. Like, oh my God, imagine how many fucking talent shows at like high schools around the world where that song has been played. It's been played to death.
I think Smells Like Teen Spirit is just like not like the whole reason, because it was very well written, good lyrics, like good voice, good instruments. But I think a very big reason on why it's still considered overplayed and it's played all the time is the fact that it is just such an easy song to bang your head to.
Sure.
Like the tempo is very like you're not gonna break your neck if you do it to beat, like most metal songs.
I get you. Yeah.
It's got a certain vibe, but it's a bit like songs can be completely like just annoying.
I will say
to a certain point.
I'll say this. Maybe one of the reasons why a lot of these tracks become so big is because they're so easy to play.
Yeah.
We noticed that. Like, Nirvana songs are really easy to learn. Oasis songs easy to like. It's all basic chords, bar chords, whatever. Like, they're pretty straightforward, which makes them more accessible.
I do completely agree with that. If you have a song that's like really simple and like people can learn it on guitar easily. People can learn the vocals easily. Because I get in songs where, like, with certain bands, people want to sound like the best singer in the world.
Yeah.
By doing notes that people won't be able to sing along to. I think people want a song that they can sing along to. Because if you're doing a song that is completely impossible to play along to on guitar or sing along to, people are just going to go, well, I can't sing to this. So, because when I'm in the car, I want to, when there's music on, I want to sing along. I want to be like jumping up, well, not jumping because I'm in the car. So
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second, because I do agree with you, but at the same time, you could make this argument about someone like, let's say, Adele, right? Amazing voice, right? You could make the argument, like, well, none of us can sing to that level. Guess there's no point. But then they're still catchy.
Simple enough to like sing along to, like, even if it's completely out of key or like octave lower down.
Yeah.
But, I get. It's still simple enough to sing along to, because like the vocal runs that she does, it's still, you can still sing along to it without doing the vocal run.
Okay, so it's more about the simplicity of the structure, maybe.
Yeah, because obviously I'm a glam rock singer in a glam rock band. Everything about us is glam. But
mad. All right.
Everyone loves Adele. I love Adele.
Yeah.
And like when I say that to people, like, go, I love Adele. People are like, you shouldn't, because you're a rock vocalist. I'm just like, well, she's one of the most amazing vocalists.
I gotta say, I think that's a younger mentality here, and forgive me for saying this, but what I mean is, like, I remember when I was your age, like, and I know people hate when people say this, but trust me, when you're my age, you'll be saying this. Trust me. But I remember what it was like back then, and almost like people setting rules, like, well, you can't listen to this because you're this, and it's like, once you get to a certain age, like, no one gives a shit. Like, you know, could, like, I know people, and I'm myself included, where it'll be like, oh, Cannibal Corpse, oh, Katy Perry, like, in the same playlist. Do you know what I mean? It's like, a good tune is a good tune. But I've never understood that mentality. Like, I had that when I was at school, because I listened to quite a lot of different things at school. You know, pop, rock, metal, rap, everything, grime, and then as I got older and I became like a musician, I started listening to everything, because as most musicians will tell you, obviously everything is interconnected. And once you start exploring and learning about music, you're like, oh, everything's connected. It's all one big tree, right? And you learn so much, you gain so much, and you realize that many artists, including pop artists, are often heavily inspired by artists you never would have thought about. Like, and it's just crazy to really think about. But let's explore. Yeah, I just want to explore, because it's not often you hear about people playing in glam rock bands these days.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from? What's the scene saying these days?
Well, obviously, I was brought up with like glam stuff, because my dad was like probably one of the biggest glam fans ever. Like Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, and all that.
Oh, wow.
And like, so I was pretty much brought up with it, and it's just like, you can get lost. Like with me, I get lost in that type of music. Like I get completely absorbed into it, and like when I'm singing it, I feel free enough to like entertain the people who are watching me. Like, say I was doing opera, because I can't sing opera, which is awful. You
can sing opera?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm always tempted to ask the demonstration. Jesus. Wow. Okay.
My grandma is a massive opera fan. So like, she had an opera song as her wedding dance.
Damn. There you go.
So as soon as she found out, because when I sing, I've just got a natural vibrato, which helps with opera a lot.
Okay.
So I just like started playing around with it, and I discovered that not necessarily the greatest, but I've got a
range.
bass and a good enough range for opera.
Wow.
And now every time, because with singers, and you go to see your grandparents or your parents, they go, sing us something. So he's just like, sing Les Mis. And I'm just like, can I not just sing Sweet Child of Mine or something? And she's like, no, I don't like that music.
Madness.
So, I've completely forgotten what we were talking about because I went on a tangent. So you'll probably have to bring
I was just intrigued about how you got into like glam rock, really, and
so
because it's kind of it was very much an 80s thing or 70s 80s thing, more so 70s, and then obviously it went more to like hair metal in the 80s. But these days, I mean, I still see bands like that every now and again, but it's not like it's you're talking more revival territory now, really. If it comes back, it will be revival, and the scale of that, I mean, is anyone's guess. But since you're in that scene and that's something that you're doing, like I just like to learn a little bit more about that, I guess.
Well, it doesn't really get the credit that it deserves because everyone always goes, "Oh, it's just about sex, it's about drugs, it's about alcohol." But if you go back to the power ballads of glam, it's about heartbreak and love, and it's about serious topics. That at that time, nowadays that's what pop is. You just talk about love, heartbreak, and all that. But at that time, glam was the only one doing it. But not the only ones, because there was definitely other people. But the dance stuff, it was just get your hands up in the air and dance.
Nothing wrong with that.
Which, as a glam rocker,
there's
nothing wrong with getting your hands up and dancing. But I've just been completely obsessed with the 80s. Because obviously both my parents were in the 80s, and so the 80s was pretty much how I grew up, even though it wasn't in the 80s, because they still lived like they were in the 80s, played the same music like they were in the 80s and all that. I actually a vinyl machine right next to a record player, right next to me, with a Motley Crue vinyl in it.
Good lad. Good lad. There's hope for the future. Yeah.
So it's just a completely different sound to the modern stuff. Because obviously they used the older equipment because that's what they had at the time. The voices were a lot different because the voices that we have now will probably not be seen as good as the 80s voices, but now it's the other way around. Because people just at the 80s, people just want to have a good time. So if they can dance to a song, they'd just go, "It's a good song."
True.
And with glam, and how it's completely different to heavy metal. And all that. It's a type of rock / metal thing that you get the heavy vibe out of it. You definitely get that angst and all that stuff. But it's you can move around to it and you can feel it, and there's when you're singing glam, it allows you to put more emotion in than what it does singing death metal or black metal and all that.
A lot of people might disagree with you on that.
I'm probably gonna get slaughtered here by people watching this, but because obviously death metal and black metal is not my thing, which I think a lot of people know about me is that's not my thing. But I do respect it, and I do think that it's a genre that should stay because it makes a lot of people happy. It makes a lot of people feel a certain way, and it does move certain people. But with glam, it can move more people in a sense that it's more of a genre that most people can like get their head around to listen to, and like not like I want to listen to this, but like I'm all right with this being on, but like because obviously a lot of people in my family they like glam, but like then they hear like death metal and they're like, I can't understand a word he's saying. And then on occasions I have to go, it's a she. Because, and to be fair, because like I've seen a lot of women death metal vocalists who are really good at what they do, and just like you have got to be really skilled, but also you have to love it so much to put the time and effort into learning how to do that, because it's not a skill that just comes naturally, pretty much. Like you have to learn it.
It's true. You do have to work at it.
Like I can sing with distortion because obviously I'm a glam rocker, but I can't sing like that. Like, and I've tried and I can't. So it's just like you have to really love it to do that. So I respect it in that sense that it is loved by a lot of people. In a certain group of people who just love metal. And I think glam metal it's a shame how, because obviously it used to be like one of the most popular, if not the most popular genre. At the time it was like in the 80s. Yeah. And I'm not really bothered that it's not at the top anymore, but it is a bit of a shame that it's considered like a dead genre by a lot of people. A lot of people think it, because to be fair, and I know that if I'm going to get anywhere with, but I'm already starting to get somewhere. But if I'm going to get to like a point where people are okay listening to us and not going, like turn that off, or are we just leaving the gig? It is a hard job because it's a genre that's considered dead by a lot of people. Not by me, because obviously I love it. But like a lot of people like have a lot of like negative things to say about it, when there are also a lot of positive things to say about it, because obviously being in that genre, I know the negatives. Like I know that in glam they didn't really talk the best about women and stuff. But then you look at rap, which is one of the biggest things in the genre in the world right now. They talk even worse about it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I suppose there's always an opportunity, isn't there, to change that? Do you know what I mean? Like
obviously, we're glam band, so we talk about like all the glam stuff, but we have made it an agreement with each other that we aren't going to have anything in our songs which is like talking negatively about any gender or sexuality or whatever. Like, because obviously it's not right, because there are like a lot of songs which say negative stuff about gay people or say negative stuff about women, and we just don't want to be that band. We want to be a band that accepts everyone, because obviously you are who you are and you can't change it, because if you do try to change it, you're just gonna be stuck in a place that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's really refreshing to hear that as well. I think these days it's important to recognize, and it always has been, but I think it's especially important now with the advent of the internet and the reach and everything, accessibility to things, music and media, etc. It's even more important to be conscientious of what you're putting out there, and to make sure it's appropriate, and that it you know, like for instance, in my community, online, I get people from all walks of life, backgrounds, you name it. Sometimes you get like unfortunate, horrible trolls, and they try to make fun of things. And like one thing I've always been big on is like trans rights and stuff. You know, it's not something that I thought I would find myself, you know, coming out and being public about support. Like obviously I quietly supported it, but I just never, do you know what I mean? Like I never felt like I always thought I'd just be a quiet kind of supporter of things and that's it, and do my own thing kind of thing. But then I started seeing like trolls in the comments saying nasty things, and I always made a point of being like, hey, just so you know, I support this. Fuck these trolls. And I think bringing it back to the music, like it's important to make those statements and to be like, hey, yeah, we're in support of this. We're in support of this. Because when you say that, like sometimes people might look at that and be like, oh, whatever, like who cares, right? You know, just do what you're doing, stop making statements. But sometimes it's important for people to hear that you support that, because it's like, oh, okay, they support me. They support who I am and what I choose to be.
That's one of the big reasons why we want well, we're not going to put any lyrics that are like like just being horrible to that to like any sexuality or gender or race or whatever, because we want like people who do dig our music, we want them to feel like, because obviously they're our fans, we want to include our fans. Like we don't want them to go, oh, they won't accept me being there. Like their fans won't accept me being a fan because I'm trans or I'm gay or whatever. And I just want to be this. I want our band to be an open, safe space for anyone to be able to show who they are and like just be who they are. Because if you're not being who you are, as I said before, you're not be stuck in a good place, you're going to be stuck in a bad place because you're pretending the entire time. And the reason why I think that people really need to show who they are. Obviously I'm not like I'm a straight man, but like I have had to hide who I was for a long time because no one really accepted me, because obviously I'm autistic and I have ADHD. I've got a lot of issues that people didn't accept about me, and I had to hide away. So where people just went, "Oh, he's thick, he's dumb," because I was hiding the fact that I actually have issues like autism and ADHD. They go, "Oh, he's just a hyper little twat," or sorry if that's a word I can't say. There's a lot of things that people didn't accept about me when I did open up about it. But when I did open up about it, I felt like there was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And I was just like, all right, so you're not an actual friend because you left. So I'm fine with that. I'll find my people. Because when you start to be who you are, you find out who really cares about you and who doesn't, which is like a major thing in life, because you find out the people who don't care about you and you just leave them to not care and you just don't care about them, which is easier said than done. But like you can start to build the process of, they don't like me, so I'm just going to leave and find the people who do. So that's because pretty much all of the band members, actually every single one of us, including our managers, had issues in the past of not being accepted. So we want people to feel accepted by us because we do accept everyone. So we want everyone to feel that way.
Beautiful message, man. Sorry to hear you had to go through those, to experience that. If you had a message that you could send to anyone who might be in a similar position, what would it be?
it'd be stay true to who you are, no matter what anyone says. Don't try and hide yourself away, because if you hide yourself away, you're just going to forget who you are, and you're not going to like being in the place that you're in. So never hide who you are, and never give up on what you want to do, because no matter what people say is your limit is whatever you think it is. So if you believe you can make it, go for it.
Damn, inspiring stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to hit you with like a bunch of random questions, so we'll see how you get along with all these. What does being human mean to you?
It's to me, it's a blessing. Having life and being able to go through this journey from start to finish, it's a complete blessing to be able to have that.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to go through this journey, through the good times and the bad times, because there are bad times. But then you always enjoy the good times, and even sometimes, which you don't even realize, but the bad times make the good times that much better. So I think it's a complete blessing to be alive and to be human.
Beautiful. I have to say, very wise for your age. I'm very impressed. I wish I had my shit together at your age. Like, just very, very impressed, man. Clearly very well raised. What would you like your legacy to be?
I want it to be a legacy of acceptance and being free to be who you are, and I want it to be a legacy of it's hard to put this into words because I know what I'm trying to say. Just a legacy of be who you are, don't let anyone drag you down, and a legacy of just dance at our live shows, please.
Please dance. What's the best advice you've ever received?
It's probably from my grandma a couple of years back when I was going through a really tough time of depression and trying to commit suicide many times.
Wow, sorry to hear that.
She's gone through the same things as me, which I never knew until I opened up about it and she told me. And I never knew that because she's the most like upbeat and happy person now. And she just said, the world never stops for anyone, but you can keep up with it. And don't let anyone push you down so you can't keep up with it. Because if you don't get up after being pushed down, you're not going to catch up. But if you keep getting up after every hit, you will eventually catch up to the world.
Whew. Some deep stuff right there. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it.
She is a very wise woman.
What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
The biggest life lesson? Probably that whatever you want to do, you can do it, but you have to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how good you are, no matter how good you think you are or how good you actually are, you have to work for it and you have to put effort and time into it. Because if you don't, even if you're the best singer in the world, if you're not putting the time and effort in, no one's going to notice it because you're not out there for people to see. So it's just work for what you want and you will end up getting it, but you got to work hard and you got to put in the effort and the time for it.
Could not agree more, man. Could not agree more. You mentioned off camera before we began that you live on a farm.
Yeah.
I've lived on a farm before. Let's trade farm stories. Talk to me about living on a farm.
Well, first off, as you've experienced before we actually got started, Wi-Fi is awful. But it's good. It's like you everywhere around you is nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's very few stuff around you which is man-made, and you can just enjoy the nature and enjoy what's ended up being created on this earth by a reason that I don't know. But it's living on a farm is beautiful because it's just nature all around you, and also the animals that are there. Like it's amazing just seeing them every day. And apart from when you wake up, it's really annoying because they're usually the ones that do wake you up.
When you meet people from the city and stuff, do you ever notice, or maybe friends that you have that have completely different upbringings, like maybe more residential, something like that? Is there anything that you notice that's starkly different in your perspective as a result of having lived on a farm?
I think it's more like I'm more in touch with the nature side of stuff, and they're like just walking through buildings every day, and I'm just like walking through bulls every day. So it's just like it is different, but obviously there are definitely similarities as well. But it is different with the way that we're being brought up, because obviously being brought up in a city completely changes like perspective and all that, and being brought up on a farm like I have been, like it it also changes your perspective in a different way, because like upbringings are completely different. Like in the city, you've got loads of people around you, and you're used to having everyone around you, and all the buildings and all that. And someone raised on a farm like me, you used to being alone most of the time. Not like in a bad way, because obviously I did and I still do have friends, but I'm used to being by myself on the times where I'm just like doing nothing. But like, because I can't really ask someone, do you want to go out today, unless I want to go miles.
I was gonna say expedition,
yeah. So I'm by myself most of the time, other than times when I'm with my band. But I do still try to make sure that I spend time with my friends who aren't in the band, because obviously, but the band's like family, like. But my friends, I still need to like be a part of their lives and still be there. So it's pretty much. I mean, it's similar, like very, very close, but there are some massive differences on like how when you live on a farm, you're brought up pretty much having few people around you, and then when you're brought up in city, there's loads of people around you. So like, because I actually dropped out of school.
Okay.
Ages ago, so I was even more by myself than what I would have before then. And just for the people watching, I don't recommend dropping out. Stay in school and keep yourself educated and try the best of it that you can. Because you think it'll be more exciting not being in education, but it's just as boring.
So what are you doing now instead of school? Obviously, you're a bit older now. You're 18. Are you working? Do you have like a particular career field that you're working on in addition to the music?
Well, right now, I'm a bartender
All right.
at a local pub in a village that's just like 5-10 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
And then on my time off, do music and gig round and all that, which is a weird combination of jobs because it doesn't leave you with that much time to do what you want to do, because obviously sometimes I'm there all night but it pays, so I'm happy with it. But it's a decent job, but like some of the people in the bar are just idiots, and not in like a bad way, but like like sometimes can be a bit mean way. Like by that I mean like not really with the words, they're just like trying to play around to impress their friends.
Yeah.
So I've been locked in the cellar before by someone, a customer, when I was just trying to restock the drinks. And then there was this one guy, which is a story that I find quite funny now. Didn't at the time, but now I find it quite funny. There was this man who he ordered a pint. He tried to get away with not paying for it, and I said, "Mate, you need to pay for it." And I said, "I did." He said, "I did." He served us, and just like, I literally remember it was me serving you. And he was like, "Well, just be nice." And I was like, "Well, just pay for it. It's your job."
Just be nice. Would you mean? Oh, just let us off. Come on. Freebie, mates rates.
Pretty much that.
On the house.
I can't, it's my job. And then after that, he actually went in to swing for it. And I'm just like, mate, I don't care how many times you're going to swing it. I'm still going to keep asking for the money because it's my job.
Wait, so you're just like this? You're like, can you, hey, for the pint, please?
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's card reader. Come on.
That was pretty much it.
Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Any other crazy customer service stories for your time?
I haven't got a crazy customer story, but I've got a crazy co-worker story.
Go for it.
They don't work anymore there because they got fired.
Yeah.
But they wanted to drink on the job because the alcohol was there to do it.
Okay.
So they'd been doing that for a while and hadn't been caught. And then I just saw them and just like, what in the world are you doing? There's literally a customer waiting.
Yeah, they're just having a cheeky pint.
A drink. No joke. There was like, I don't know, 15 people waiting to be served, and they were literally just pouring themselves a pint. I was just, when I first saw it, just like, oh, they're just serving a pint. And then I saw him sip it, and I'm just like, what?
Yes, he's just like, all right, you wait. Oh yeah. You wait a bit longer. It's just that one up.
I'm just like, mate, there's literally 15 people here. I'll help you because I'm here now, but you got to serve them.
Jesus.
I mean, it's not as cool as I made it out to be, but
it's just I can imagine the awkwardness because I've worked as a bartender. I've worked in bars. I know how it is, and it's some people they're really awkward. Like there was a guy that was caught stealing in the place that I worked most recently, and it was just fascinating in retrospect because it happened once or twice. So we started monitoring them, and then they just kept doing it, and we're like, wow, like I wonder how many drinks they're going to steal. And it got to like 5 in the end, and then we discovered this guy was like stealing from the till, stealing from other servers. It was kind of wild in retrospect. It was like I can't believe this guy was here for this long and got away with this for this long. Like, wow. There you go, people. As we draw
it
things,
happens more than people think in bartending.
I think he thought he could get away with it as well. Because I remember being told about how he got fired, and apparently the story goes that the manager had some choice words for him, and then the guy said, like, "Well, how did you catch me?" Or maybe not how did you catch me, but what's your proof? Is what he said, and he said, "Mate, we have you on CCTV." And apparently the guy's response was, "Oh fuck!" Like, "Oh no, you rumbled my master plan," and it's like, dude. There's cameras everywhere. Like in the particular bar that he was working at, say this is the station where he's working, making his drinks, right? The camera's literally right there. So it's like overhead, sees everything that you're doing. There's no way you could not be seen unless you're underneath that camera, like making a drink. It's just bizarre. I don't know. I guess maybe he just was a bit dim. I don't know.
I mean, you only get these type of stories from bar work.
It's true. It is true. As we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, we've got a gig that we're rehearsing for.
Woo!
quite heavily. It's not too soon, but it's on the 26th of August. And it's at Park in the Park in Morpeth. Tickets are being sold, so if you want to check us out, they're not too expensive tickets. So if you do want to check us out,
You've not told us the name of your band, mate. What's the name of the band?
Well, we're called Les Wings. Which actually ties in with another thing. Is actually we do have a weird inside joke with fans and band members and even the manager, which is like, because somebody asked our name once and they went because we were talking about the band and they mispronounced our name and they're like, "Oh, so I check out Lesbian Wings later." I'm just like, not our name.
But you just took it anyway. Why not? Yeah, go with it.
Yeah,
go with it.
Les Wings. About it all the time.
It sounds almost French. Les Wings. That's weird.
Yeah. So it's because Les is apparently, I don't even know if this is true. I just got told that is the in French. Yeah. So you just like, all right, we'll just call it the Wings, and then we just found out what that meant. We were just like, so the Wings sounds pretty terrible. So
pretty sure it's taken as well. So,
yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So sorry to whoever band that is. I think it's terrible. So we just went, all right. I remember that I was told that Les is though in French, so why not just do Les Wings? And we went, it rolls off the tongue. It sounds cool. So we just went with it.
Right on, man. Well, I wish you the very best of luck with your gig and your gigging. And I know you'll do well. You've got a good head on those shoulders. You're going to be absolutely fine. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
It's been all my pleasure. All my pleasure. It's been great.
Thank you so much. And to the listeners of the Christian Reeve Podcast, as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.